Hi, everyone. We're just waiting to resolve a few technical issues. We'll get started very, very shortly. Good morning, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order at, I guess it is 10:05 a.m. I want to offer our land acknowledgement before we begin. That Halifax Regional Municipality is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. The municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaties signed in this territory and recognizes that we are all treaty people. We also recognize that African Nova Scotians are a distinct people whose histories, legacies, and contributions have enriched the part of Mi'kma'ki known as Nova Scotia for over 400 years. So pleased to begin this morning. Just like to introduce our staff liaison team, William Hatfield, our solicitor, Maggie McDonald, our executive director of Parks and Recreation, and Elizabeth McDonald, who's our legislative, pardon me? Who's our legislative assistant. We'll call for the approval of the minutes of January 2022. Thank you. Moved by Kathy Daigle-Gammon and seconded by Jean Saint-Amand. Are there any errors or omissions? We'll call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, nay. The motion has passed. Now I'm looking for an approval of the order of business and approval of additions and deletions. Clerk, are there any changes or any additions or deletions?
There are no additions or deletions from the clerk's office.
Okay, looking for a motion to approve the order of business as presented. Moved by Councillor Saint-Amand. Seconded, I didn't see the seconder, seconded by Councillor Purdy. Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand or signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, nay. The motion has passed. Are there any business arising out of the minutes? No, seeing none. Do we have any declarations of conflict of interest? No declarations of conflict of interest. We don't have any motions of reconsideration, rescission, consideration of deferred business, or notices of table matters. Clerk, do we have any correspondence?
No correspondence has been received from the clerk's office.
Okay. Do we have any petitions?
No petitions have been received.
Okay. So we are now moving to presentations, and I'll ask that Pamela Glode come forward for her presentation. And for the presentations, you have 10 minutes to present, and the clerk will provide a verbal notice when you have 30 seconds left, and then again when your time is up. And we require the light to be green for when you start to speak. Welcome, Pamela. And I'll ask you to introduce your associate.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. It's Pam Glode DeRoche, Executive Director with the Mi'kmaq Native Friendship Center. I am Ilnu. I belong to Millbrook First Nation. I do live, work, and play in the urban context, which is beautiful Halifax. And this is my partner who gets me into trouble all the time, Tom McGuire, who has worked with us on this project and many others around our community development and community economic strategies, including our tourism strategy. So thank you for having me here. I was sitting here this morning thinking it was 2015 when the mayor and council passed the Statement of Reconciliation, and some of us have been here that long, and I remember that being a really emotional day, and it's been a wonderful journey to work with the city ever since, and excited to be here today to talk about the Wujaywiyan Center. And just a little bit for those who are not familiar with the Wujaywiyan Center, it's an urban Indigenous community that has about 9,500 people that we're working with on a daily basis. There's about 20,000 Indigenous people working, living, and playing in the urban context. And this new Wujaywiyan Center is about reconciliation. It's about bringing Indigenous and non-Indigenous community members together and actually learning from each other and being part of our communities together and not at each other. The Friendship Center has over 70 programs and services. It is a gateway for tourism, for our communities, and for the urban context. The building itself is 70,000 square feet. It is a zero carbon building. It is resilient landscaping, which Tom will touch a little bit more about, and the economic impacts on that. I've already mentioned we're about 9,500 this year. It says 94, but I do believe we're up to 95. 100 community members. We have 230 staff that live, work, and play in Halifax. In our health center alone, we have 2,500 patients, and we've helped house that core housing need, 320 people in some of the projects that we have and with our partners that we have. This next slide is on our social infrastructure, and it is about our community and cultural department. We have housing, employment and training, which is really focused on working with our partners and training opportunities, even our new developments, not just with the Wujaywiyan Center, but Marine House and some of our other projects. Family supports, we have our health center, of course, and that includes our mental health projects as well. Education is a big part. We have some adult learning education opportunities, but we also look at entrepreneurship in that space as well. Partnership development is another big piece that we work with the coalitions and our national database projects that we work with. Child development, of course, is a big piece of what we do. We have our Aboriginal Head Start, our daycare and early years program that works directly with parents. Harm reduction, for those who know us, know that we're very much involved in harm reduction projects, needle exchange program, methadone program, and our mental health team not only works in-house, but also works within the encampments as well. Justice is another big piece of what we do. Seniors development is also a big piece, so we have ongoing programs with our seniors. And of course, there's many others that fit within those realms as well. We're reaching home. We're the only not-for-profit in Nova Scotia to offer for community members to come and get their status card. So that's just a little bit high level of what's going on. The new space itself has the event hall, cafe, and retail space. So this is part of our community development area that we're working out. So we're going to be working with Mi'kmaq entrepreneurs and making sure that we're working to actually build self-sustainability within the community and for the center itself. I'm going to pass this on to Tom, and then I'll jump back in at the very end.
Thanks, Pam. Yeah, so I did want to talk about the landscape, but I also want to tie it into the importance of own source revenues for the Friendship Center sustainability. A lot of these things that we talk about, the event space and the welcome space that the Friendship Center will have, is important for own source revenue. It's a way to help with the sustainability of the operation overall. The client resilient landscape will provide 30,000 square feet of landscape space in urban Halifax. So this will be the restoration of a Wabanaki forest for land-based learning, teaching, training. It'll be animated by elders and knowledge keepers of the center. It'll be open to the public. We've talked to tourism operators in HRM about this augmenting their programmatic offerings. So it'll be augment the interior space, the culture, the ceremony, the reconciliation center that the Friendship Center will become. So ceremony and celebration will be had here. The public space I mentioned, the active living, so encouraging health, wellness, lifestyle, recreation, mindfulness. This will offer land-based learning to urban Indigenous youth, as well as other members of the public. So an education space as well. Arts and crafts, authentic Indigenous and particularly Mi'kmaq arts and crafts and experiences can be exhibited from here. And again, this all it's kind of an integrated package. This outdoor interpretation ties well with the interior interpretation and backstops all of the programming that the Friendship Center offers. The important alignment of this with the integrated tourism master plan that Discover Halifax put out, and the alignment and interest that Tourism Nova Scotia has showed in this offering. It fills a gap in downtown Halifax that doesn't exist right today. The opportunity to experience Indigenous offerings from the Indigenous community. I also, in the time we have left, I'm not sure how much that is, I did also want to touch on the investment that the Friendship Center itself has made in this site. This site is, we're grateful to have it. It's a challenging site. There's an 11-meter grade change from Rainy Drive to the corner of Godwin Street. So dealing with that, of course, we do the geotechnical, but you always uncover unexpected things when you start to dig. So far, the Friendship Center has spent $1.3 million in shoring up the bank that divides Rainy Drive from the Friendship Center property. We've driven 87 steel anchors into the bank under 10 meters under Rainy Drive. We put shotcrete on that to stabilize it. That took over 6 weeks. We think we're going to have to continue that. And as we move into the 30,000 square feet of landscape space, there's going to be significant substructure work to be done there in terms of maintaining and managing stormwater runoff from Rainy Drive over Citadel Hill over Rainy Drive through the site. So it's providing that climate service that I think is really important in HRM. So that stormwater management piece. And the carbon sink that this will provide in terms of helping HRM with its cooling and tree growth program as well. So the last slide, are you doing that?
I think we kind of. I think what I would really like to talk about is we've raised $63 million. We're filling that gap right now. It's a $90 million project. And we have worked very hard to deal with the environmental pieces that affect that property. But I think what I really want to talk about in particular with you guys today is the importance of the economic development opportunities, not just for the Friendship Center, but for community members as well on that space. And I can say that, Parks Canada has been very interested in some of what we're doing as well. So hopefully there's more projects to come out of this for the future, and excited about those opportunities as well. But really, working with the Port Authority on tourism, working with the cruise ships. We've got ongoing conversations with partners around other, not just the Friendship Center location, but other locations in HRM as well. To ensure that there's authentic storytelling, making sure that Mi'kmaq are involved in this every step of the way. And I think there's a real opportunity for the city to actually see this as a real investment for long-term community planning, and where the Mi'kmaq are certainly center, and being able to be seen instead of hidden like we have been for generations. So I think it is a real opportunity, and again, really thankful for all the support this mayor and council and past mayor and councils have done for us. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us moving forward to do things again together and working with each other to tell a really unique story, because I think Halifax is a very unique story in itself. Colonization began here first, and I always tout that this is where reconciliation will begin, and I think it has begun here with the support with the city. So thank you. How was that?
Thanks very much, Pam and Tom. Do we have any questions from councillors? Go ahead, Councillor Mancini.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Pam and Tom, thanks very much. It's always great to see you, Pam, of course. Can you maybe, for looking around the chambers here, some of these folks were not here when that site was handed over to the Friendship Center. Can you give just a very brief background of what had happened, how did that occur, and the end result of that?
How much detail do you want?
No, just very high level. Very high level.
High level. So we worked really hard with the mayor and council at that time. And actually it was on June 21st when the first council finally, after a couple times, it didn't quite make it through. And then on June 21st of I think it was 2014, the council actually made the agreement to at least look at this and move forward with the Friendship Center to ensure that urban Indigenous community members were part of this city. And through many years, I think it was 5-6 years in total, to actually finally get us to where we are today, where it was actually the city who pulled the trigger first, and I use that lightly. I don't use that lightly because, especially with everything that happens in this world, but if it hadn't been for the city to actually take that first step, it was that was the game changer for the urban community. It was that investment by helping us access that land that actually allows us to actually move forward. And without that first step, it would never have happened. And I always used to laugh and say it was a leap of faith to get us to where we were. And it has been, and it's been several leaps of faith. But here we are today with a beautiful building that, if you drive by, it is going up. And it's going to be home to not just for my own community, but the broader community as well. That landscape in particular will be the largest piece of public space that's not owned by HRM, but will be used by the public. When we first started looking at it, I had a lot of community members saying, oh, you're going to put fences up and that. And it's like, no, you don't understand the connection and the importance of not only my own community learning to be caretakers for that land, but it's also about all of us learning that journey together. So we're all going to learn together. But if it hadn't been for the city taking that leap of faith with us, we wouldn't be where we are today. And very thankful for that.
And I appreciate you sharing that. And, when we talk about statement of reconciliation, I think that was a major statement of reconciliation. I guess my question is today, what is the actual ask? You talked about where you've raised 63 million, 90 million. What is the actual ask today?
You want me to
Yeah,
answer?
yeah.
We were looking for 3 million. And I would ask to be mindful of that there has been significant infrastructure investment in just making sure that Rainy Drive doesn't slide into 1940 Goddington Street.
Right.
And
You're good?
And I just want to say too that I think it's an investment for, while I know people will look at it as an expense, I truly think it's an investment for the future of HRM. It is about, making sure that we're looking after runoff waters, that we're looking after all of those, and it'll be a cooling space. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think where we're located is high. It's high, very score on that heating canopy. So really making sure that we're able to work and ensure that the environment, we're looking after the environment, but we're looking after the people as well, and that we're building a space where people want to be and they want to come to downtown Halifax to take part in activities and be part of the community.
Yeah, thank you for that. Just in my time's running out here. I'm not on the committee, so typically I see Councillor Daigle Gammon is on next. Typically from this committee, a motion would be brought forward to have staff investigate the ask. So I'll see if any of the committee members, if it doesn't happen today, it still can happen at a later date. But thank you very much, both of you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Daigle Gammon.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you both. Always a pleasure to be in your company. So my question is, I guess you'd have to be living under a rock to hear about all of the budget concerns right now, right? So a $3 million ask in the middle of this budget season is a little bit challenging to receive or even to present in a way. I guess I'm wondering about what is the timing of when this is needed? Is it in this budget cycle? Are you thinking that it's, 26, 27, 28? I'm wondering about that. Also, are there other orders of government that you're looking to receive funding from, and what does that look like? And it's a wonderful presentation. We didn't have it in advance. Would you be considering sharing that with members of council? Thanks.
If I miss some of the questions, please raise them again. In terms of timing, obviously understanding the budget that we have available, sooner the better, is important. The actual work in the ground will happen, is scheduled to happen towards the end of this current calendar year. So it'll be that time frame. And in terms of other funders, we are approaching other levels of government, other programs, and we'll continue to do that until we are certain we have the funding envelope that we need.
And just as a follow-up then, the other levels of government, is that in addition to the $3 million ask to HRM?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And we're Pam's reminding me too, we've also approached Halifax for funding.
Okay.
And I just want to point out that Halifax actually helped us work on the environmental plan as well. They're an amazing group of individuals, very smart. So I just, they really helped us center a lot of the work that we've been doing. So I just wanted to acknowledge the impact they've had on the development of this.
So I just have 2 minutes left here, but just to share the presentation, if that would be possible. I'm not, in this moment, not ready to put a motion forward because I think we need to do a little bit of research and talk with some of our staff, but definitely something to investigate and absolutely understand and know the complete value of the center. Thank you.
Not seeing any other speakers, I will ask the committee if it's okay if I ask a question from the chair. My question is, when do you hope to open? I know that's always a difficult question with construction and surprises underground.
So they're telling me 2027, but I'm trying to manage expectations of my own community. So I'm going to say 2028, early 2028. And the goal is for us to actually host in 2028 our National Association of Friendship Centers AGM that year as well in the new building. So looking to bring in some outside opportunities for the community as well. So, but yeah.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Mancini would like to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. While I've got you, Pam, I want to ask you about a different project. You guys have just these little projects you guys have. I don't know, Marine House. And so for the colleagues that may not be aware of, Marine House is a federal building that's located downtown in Dartmouth that now and Pam, can you describe it more, what's happening? So you can give us an update on that, that'd be great. Thank you.
Always happy to talk about that one. It's been a long journey, but we're finally there. So Marine House, through the chiefs to us, supported the Federal Lands Initiative for the Friendship Center to access that property. There'll be 69 core housing needs units. There's family units, there's 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom, and some bachelor. So it's mixed housing, and very excited to say that CMHC funding has finally been nailed down, and HRM is also part of that as well. So again, very thankful for that. And we're finishing up and working with the province on their portion, but we have started some of the remediation.
Oh, really?
And so excited to get that done and get us in there. And hopefully by the time we're done, we're taking another 200 community members plus, hopefully, and providing true core housing needs and 30% of people's income as well. That's what we're aiming for. And making sure that complete wraparound supports are still available as well. So that project, and actually I'm very thankful because right behind us is the city's doing a wonderful park there. So it's going to fit just lovely with the community. So I'm excited about that project.
Same question, is there a proposed deadline of opening up?
It's very close to the same deadline as the new Friendship Center.
Yeah.
Hopefully sooner, but construction is always, you just never know.
We know that very well here. Yeah. And no other projects that I can ask you about that? No, that's good. That's good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. I have more of a comment or possibly a question. Are you also presenting today to our Environment Standing Committee? Yes, it's the same presentation, right? Okay, just for the concern of people that, may have wanted to talk about a motion or something. Okay, thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that. Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, well, I'll say thank you to Pam and Tom for coming in, and some of us will see you this afternoon. Thank you. So I'll now ask, Elizabeth. Okay, go ahead. Okay, so we'll now move to our next presenter, and this is Danny Graham from Engage Nova Scotia. And I will ask everyone for their patience. I think we have some technical issues that we may or may not have been able to resolve. So we'll work through this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, councillors, for this opportunity. I had originally, I was the tech challenged person, or in this case, I think the room is a bit tech challenged. I had asked to be able to use some tools today, which was an update from our CPED presentation from 4 years ago when we attempted to dazzle the committee with hard copies of documents that we were able to use, but we've moved them online and made them accessible to the public. And I was hoping for today's purposes that we'd be able to feature those, but perhaps on another occasion and in another context, we might be able to do it. Fortunately, I do have some slides. These slides have been shared with each councillor from me last week, and it comes along with a report that I shared. It's about an 8-page report that I'll be speaking more to in budget committee tomorrow. So this is the way, Madam Chair, that I'd like to treat this, is really as an opportunity for the Community Planning and Economic Development Committee to receive an update from what you had received on previous occasions. There are several slides that I have, and I'm going to cut to the quick, if you will. If I wasn't using my tools, I would have used an HRM example in these slides instead of a CBRM example, but I think you'll get the point about what the potential benefit is for the work that we are doing with and for you. We are fortunate to have an extraordinary group of Nova Scotians who are committed as boards of director members in our organization. And they together are working with us and our partners to try to change the approach to improving quality of life for everyone. Quality of life, we've learned, I won't go into the details of this, for Nova Scotians is a hugely important something, and it aligns with your vision. The Halifax Regional Municipality's vision for a future is to enhance our quality of life by fostering growth of healthy and vibrant communities, a strong and diverse economy, and a sustainable environment, according to your strategic report. So quality of life for both of us is sort of a top-line issue. This is the metaphor that we often use to express what it is that we're doing. Good quality of life requires for us to create, in a sense, a virtuous cycle amongst economic and population growth, but also what's less visible issues that are in the soil. This ties to some of the priorities that the Halifax Partnership has put out over a number of years, where it's these three pillars are the things that help drive a good well-being. Hopefully, councillors remember that in 2019, we administered this massive, largest ever in Canada, survey of residents in our province. We had the support from every sector, practically every municipality, from one end of the province to the other, including Halifax and HRM, all three levels of government. And it created a data set in 2019 that you'll see resulted in 4,634 residents in Halifax answering over 200 questions. It gave HRM the largest single data set on well-being and quality of life that doesn't just exist in Canada, but in the world. And that's when we surveyed asked 20% of your residents to participate. These are the kinds of questions that we asked. And most importantly, we asked, who are you by age, number of children, age of your children, education, living arrangements, renters, owners, et cetera, et cetera. We produced several reports. It includes the one on the right-hand side for HRM around women's quality of life in HRM, along with several other reports. But it's when we created the Razzle Dazzle tools, one of which is available on our website, publicly available, gets used every single week by HRM residents to understand the stories in their backyard. That was really impressive. But when we worked with Dalhousie to create something that didn't just go to where you lived, but who within each of these regions are you? I'm going to share more about that. That's really the most important thing that I want you to understand. This is the publicly available tool, a visual of it on our website. And then there's the well-being analysis tool. And I'd like to show you here how this works. This is what you would have seen if I was using the tools generally, but it would have been HRM, where I would have been able to bring up the story, for example, across hundreds of questions. Here just happens to be the story of affordability for CBRM residents, where the purples represent concerns, yellows represent relative assets in this region. We did workshops with CBRM. We'd love to do them with HRM. We've been waving our arms about the need and importance for that on an ongoing basis. Now, these would show you that there are concerns for people between 16 and 35, and it might appear that there aren't any for older adults, but really what we end up finding out when we go into these tools is that in CBRM, even for older adults, there were concerns, not just assets. So they started their strategic planning process thinking that economic development and population growth were the only things that were priorities for them. But after we showed them this, which said, these are the relative assets for people over 65 in CBRM, again, we can do this for Halifax, and we're hoping to be able to do this actually for each one of the 16 districts in HRM after our next survey. So you will have this for your districts if we have high enough participation. This is what it looks like for younger adults in CBRM. And this is when the attention of councillors really started to get focused. This is what it looks like for people who live with less than $40,000 in that region. This isn't unique to CBRM. Every municipality we go into shows the same results each and every time. The story of families being led by single parents, this is what it looks like, color-coded to their concerns. Look at the story of persons with disabilities, not just in CBRM, but this is consistent with the story of persons with disabilities all across Nova Scotia. And what happened with that municipality? They sat back and they said, okay, we need to go beyond population and economic growth. We need to add social inclusion to our priorities. They struck task forces. They did a deeper dive with us. The deeper dive looked like this. But here's the critical point about promoting the next survey that we have coming up. We were able to go into, for example, just the question of housing in CBRM, and you'll see in the pullout on the right-hand side, we're able to say, okay, these purples are really concerning. A row of purples on housing issues for young adults, a row of purples for single parents and for people living with low income and with disabilities, and so on. We did this for transit. These are the questions we had for recreation. Look at the number of recreation questions. Now, imagine in each of your districts having this level of data that will tell you what's actually going to be happening. These are words that our friends at Statistics Canada use to describe our work that is a breakthrough nationally and internationally. You can do something in Nova Scotia that's hyper-local, intersectional, nimble, and it makes it understandable. Most importantly, and this will be the point that I make at Budget Committee tomorrow, is that it actually makes for more effective and efficient decisions. Councillor Deagle-Gammon spoke about the really difficult challenges that you are in right now. Our point is that if you can't solve a problem you don't understand. And if you want to understand how to more effectively prioritize your issues, you need the data to support it. That's the fundamental point that we would want to make. So prioritizing requires us to understand this story. The exciting thing is that starting this month, next week, every resident in HRM is going to be receiving an invitation. I'll throw up the card in a moment. Actually, it looks something like this, to participate in the next survey. And it touches on issues that are pressing for your council, like affordability and housing and intimate partner violence, trust in elections, addiction concerns, mental health, and economic development questions that we've never been able to understand about whether somebody's in manufacturing or in retail, what their different lived experiences are. In the interest of time, I'll just move on. This is what it's going to look like in each of your mailboxes, hopefully if Canada Post delivers it on time. And we have the unique ability to be supported by all three levels of government, the federal, the provincial, and 17 municipalities from one end of the province to the other, including HRM. So there is broad support for what it is that we're doing. We've held municipal webinars on January 21st and 23rd, and we're really excited about the level of interest that exists amongst municipalities. HRM is the leader. It absolutely, it has been. It's been a huge supporter of ours, and we think that with your support, along with the other levels of government, we'll be able to break ground and help your citizens realize the vision you have of a better quality of life for everyone. I have additional slides, Madam Chair, that includes this one about that really crushing story that's not getting attention about the life satisfaction of Canadians and Nova Scotians, as well as concerns tied to young adults and what's happening in our society. But perhaps I'll just leave it there and open myself up for questions. I'm not sure if I did a good job of staying within the 10 minutes, a little faster than I would otherwise have, but you didn't get the tools, maybe another time. And as I said in the invitation with this, we have a promotion guide that we hope you can use through your social media assets to promote to your citizens the belief and trust in this process when they receive something, so that you're going to get better data. granular data, methodologically sound data, breakthrough data of a quality and granularity that HRM has, and any municipality in Canada has never had before. Thanks very much.
Thank you. We'll open for questions, and we'll start with the Deputy Chair, Councillor Saint-Amand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Danny, for such a complete and quick synopsis of what you're aiming for. I'm curious to know what the methodology may include that would allow you to, through the design of the questions themselves, have points of intersection that, if not establish causal relationships, at least contributory relationships among factors that you're measuring.
Question, and I wouldn't have loved it before when I knew less about the way in which these things are actually influence each other. So currently we look at the issue of housing and we think, well, let's fix it by building, for example. And that indeed is something that is required. And we look at mental health and we look at affordability and we look at experiences of discrimination and trust in institutions and employment upskilling. And we don't know how those issues actually, how we can prioritize the most important thing amongst those. So we will give you all the answers that you need on, maybe not all, but a massive amount of information on topics like housing and transit that you wouldn't have had before. But we can also connect the dots across housing and transit and age and mental health and job satisfaction in ways that allow for us to see these issues in a much clearer light. Everything is correlative. We do regression analysis. We can tell you more about why social connections in good neighborhoods, strong neighborhoods are sound for this. So we've had PhD studies done on the data from 2019 that will provide us with answers for what it's like in HRM. But the most important thing is that the data will be so granular that you will be able to get as close to causation as we can with any public survey data. One can never be absolutely certain on causation without a controlled study in a laboratory.
Right. Do you look at third-party data sources as opportunities to overlap with the data that you've collected? Because I note that when you do a survey like this, very often perceptions can differ from reality and vice versa. And so if there's a perception of the availability of service that differs from the actual availability of service, well, then we may have a communications gap that we need to fill. And it's not that we need to throw more services at it. It's that we might need to make it more obvious to people that certain services are available within their area. So I'm curious whether you look at those where there's objective data that you can overlay on the feedback that you receive from residents.
That's a very important point about, for example, perceptions of the healthcare system, perceptions of the environment, and when you actually measure whether it's available and who's receiving it, or access to recreation facilities, et cetera, et cetera. We've been working with communities, culture, tourism, and heritage at the provincial government to overlay, for example, recreation, leisure, libraries, and related facilities with the perceptions of whether or not those are accessible things. As an example, the perceptions of access to facilities in HRM, more in the urban part of HRM. So we have HRM broken down by different districts, but in urban HRM, it's the highest region in the province where people, perhaps not surprisingly, feel that they have access to facilities that don't exist in places like Straight Western Cape Breton, for example. So that's a really good indicator, but let's overlay it with the objective story of whether indeed those parties have real access or not.
Right. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Councillor Kent.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Danny, good to see you again. Thank you very much for coming in. So whenever I hear the word data and I hear surveys, I instinctively, and this is a series of over the years that I've been in and out of these kinds of roles. The question I have very quickly is, how are you attracting people to do the survey, to answer the questions, to get them there to where you have it hosted to do it? Because it's not an easy job to do, that little piece. And so I'm really curious of what you see as the carrot that will help them get there. Because the part of the reason the second part of this is there's a huge gap between the knowledge of what the resident understands the work that we do to reality of what the work that we do, and the complexity of the decision making that we have to wind down to this budget debate at the end of the day. It's around service delivery, client satisfaction, which is our residents, and those kinds of pieces. So they're not easy to tie together. The last piece I want to hear from you, if you don't mind, is this is data that you're collecting, which is always wonderful in the context of let's have data. We need data to make decisions. How do you know, and your team know, what kind of data would be relevant for us in the decision making level of municipal government, of provincial government, of any other layer of agency who has an impact on with the decisions they're making on the public? Part of the reason I ask that is our strategic priorities that are set here at the municipality would be an indicator, I'm sure, to you. That has the capacity to, government by government, like term by term, to shift. I think in general, over the course of the last 8 years or 6 years that I've been back to municipal, it's been relatively stable. Our strategic priorities have been much more renewed each term. So that's helpful. But over the course of a number of years, that can change. And so I'm curious about that. I have 2 minutes left. My last question is there any way that we as councillors could have a preview of the kinds of questions that will be asked, or is it just a question of yes and no? Is it multiple choice? Is there an opportunity to expand in questions, something a little more in depth? Because you did talk about the depth of the quality of the data. How are you gathering that? And the reason I ask that is that I think that it would be helpful to your development of future surveys to have some conversations with people at the municipality. Maybe you've already done that. I guess I want that kind of clarity. So I have the strength and knowledge of the kind of data that we're going to actually be useful here. I know it's a lot to
I think there were three issues. I'll try to deal with them in the order that you've shared with us. So your first point about participation, trust and participation in surveys is a really important one. The most obvious example of what we've done to make this happen through the support of all three levels of government and across the municipalities is increase the volume of people who receive an invitation. That's frankly, we received 4,600 responses from HRM on the last occasion, which is the largest of its type that has ever been successful here. And now we're going to increase the number of invitations fivefold in HRM. So we're not expecting that because we're going to be, that we will move from 4,600 to over 20,000, but you're going to have a massive number of people just by virtue of them receiving this post invitation card respond. The more challenging thing that I think you're pointing to relates to communities of people who, for often good reasons, don't participate or don't see it. So first of all, we're doing communications generally, but communications that is focused on demographics of people who actually may not participate quite as much. So we're generally doing outreach to them. We've hired outreach teams for systemically and structurally disadvantaged communities of people like the African Nova Scotian community to build trust with them about the value and importance of that, which builds on the work that we've done with the Road to Economic Prosperity and their data pull that we did with the Halifax Partnership. Disabilities communities, we've got workshops, we've got a disabilities outreach worker who will be working in workshops all around HRM and across the province with people to help them understand. So we created a short form survey, we've done a plain language survey, we've worked with the tech group to make sure that it's accessible from a disabilities perspective as best as it could possibly be to really do the outreach. Seltra Nova Scotia, Affordable Housing Association of Nova Scotia, all in for doing workshops that reach the people that I think you're describing to try to make it successful. Will it be perfect? I don't think so. Will it be better than it was in 2019 when it was quite successful? We are anticipating yes, but the proof will be in the pudding. In terms of examples, the report that I prepared for you, that I sent to you individually, it goes straight to it. It should be in your. I'm seeing you not be clear. Councillor Steele, Madam Chair, has said it looks like this. It's in your mailbox from last week, and starting at page 7, I break down actually council priorities and go line by line. Okay. On what would be valuable and give examples of how use of this data could be used to better track towards your 2030 goals and the strategic priorities. The last question you had related to preview of the questions. We've done a really extensive outreach in community and across the province on what are the questions that better reflect these times. And we've improved and changed it. So we didn't have, for example, questions on intimate partner violence in the last question. We do now. We didn't have any on hope. We didn't have the depth that we have on housing that we do now. We'll have tremendous amount of information on housing issues. And one of the other things that I think excites the partnership, who've been tremendous partners for us in this, is that we're asking the North American sector standard for which of these dozens of industries are you working in? And are you an owner or are you a frontline worker? So really helping us get more nuanced on economic development priorities that we know are pressing in these times as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's good.
Okay. Councillor Mancini.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Danny, so good to see you. Thanks very much for your presentation. It's interesting when I saw this on the agenda, the data set, I knew my colleague over there, who is our data geek, Saint Amand, over here, he gets really, most persons I see get most excited about data, so I knew that he'd be on board. You know, it's interesting, your statement, you can't solve a problem you don't understand. I think there are, you know, prior to my involvement in politics, I was a small business owner for 30 years. I saw a province and a municipality going in reverse. And then there was, I think, personally, things that turned that around was the Ivany report. And I think Ray Ivany really stated, you know, we've got a problem here, but we've got to understand the problem. And that has put us on the path that we found ourselves in. When it comes to the municipality, based on that I report, my own personal opinion, I think when Mayor Savage took over the leads of this municipality, had true vision of where we needed to go. And that's where we are today, right? You know, with the growth that we see in a whole many other factors. You know, budget was discussed in the previous presentation and brought up again. There's no, you see the challenges, Danny, that we are. When we talk about quality of life and life satisfaction, we're having those conversations as we deal with our residents when we talk about affordability and the challenges that we have right now. So data is really important as we make the decisions. The challenge we're having from a budget perspective is there's a lot of emotion that we're having conversation around. Maybe it's not as much data as we should. So this is all leading to my one and only question. I may have missed this, Danny, when you missed the first part of your presentation, but what is the actual ask here today?
Date, Councillor, okay. More than anything. To be transparent about that, we presented before CPED in 2022, and then last month we received a notice that we have contributions that are coming from all levels of government and philanthropy. HRM provided us with a letter saying, we're reviewing all of our contribution grants, you're included. So part of our response from a budget perspective was to write the report that I've put in your inboxes. And I can speak to that tomorrow, obviously, about continuing the funding that we have been committed to in an agreement that goes into the next fiscal year. That's obviously on the table, but really awareness and opportunity. There is one ask that I would put, and in addition to the spray of material that I sent to each of you last week, I will send the promotion guide for the, I can't put it up, but I'll just do a quick Dean Martin routine. And these are the tools. These are the things that are going to be coming in people's mailboxes. And I'll send to you the promotion guide that we have prepared that allows you to use our digital assets to promote to your district residents why it's important for them to use this. It's hopefully easy, but our comms folks can work with you to make sure that it's easily promotable in whatever means you use your social media. Councillors, we had a municipal webinar that was really well attended by councillors and staff from one end of the province to the other. And I said in my report that participation from HRM was on the low side, and we would love to have HRM actively promoting the importance of this upcoming survey. So you'll see the promotion guide coming in your mailboxes after tomorrow's meeting, perhaps, and we can go from there.
Thanks very much for that, Danny. I appreciate it. Madam Chair?
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Daigle-Gammon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Danny. Members of CPED, I wanted to share with you that when I was running in 2020 and in 2020. So one of the things that I went to was the Quality of Life Index to understand my district better. And I was able to go through and pick out all of the things that were relatively important that the people in my district saw. So that was really a great thing to do. One of the things that I did notice was maybe a little bit of a lack of a rural response, and part of it was probably just because it was, predominantly the online survey. We did do there was some targeted community sort of engagements that happened, but I'm just wondering, is there a way to increase the rural response as well within HRM, how we might be able to do that? And I do know that, I'm glad that you're coming back to budget discussions tomorrow, but there are other orders of government and other partners that are involved, and even, a snippet of what would the impact be if in any way HRM's funding was compromised for the project.
Maybe I'll go to the rural one first, and then I'll go to the implications of what we're doing and the leanness of what we're doing. Councillor Daigle-Gammon, I am so confident that your rural residents will be well represented in this, because every one of them will receive an invitation, as opposed to this is a finer point, and Councillor Saint-Amand may be extra interested in this, given his data interest, but we surveyed 15, to get the 4,600 in HRM, we actually surveyed at 15% in HRM and still got this massive response. By a percentage, HRM residents were more likely to fill out our 2019 survey than any other region of the province. In general, the uptake within rural communities has been quite strong. And we had a 16.4% response rate for a population survey. The target is a 5% response rate. So it's a big commitment of 30 to 60 minutes in trying to get people's attention. But since we've increased the number of those invitation cards going out, I think we'll be there. And it gets us to track to census subdivisions and dissemination areas, which will be geographically even finer than what you've been able to work with right now. And what should I say about the budget? This goes a bit to Councillor Kent's point about how we've worked through the years. We've worked through trust from one end of the province to the other, vicarious trust through other organizations, and strong board outreach and that sort of thing. But we're a small organization, and we have been funded. The federal funding for what we're doing right now has been generously accepted, but it really serves for the purpose of administering the survey. And that's what most of the municipalities have funded us for. We're moving into a really lean time as a tiny organization in making this happen. A loss in funding from HRM would put us from a tiny surplus to a deficit, to be quite explicit about this, for the next year. And we will, we will be fine. We're actually looking to make sure that this becomes relevant. We often get questions about this all across Canada. So I don't sound like I'm from Cape Breton when I say this, but we are invited consistently to speak nationally and internationally to organizations about the way in which we have created the ability for data to be translated and mobilized at local levels that doesn't exist in any other province or country that they've been able to put a handle on. Do we have a long way to go? This is just like the Model T Ford. It's so early compared to what I think we can do together with a more robust funding and partnerships, including the one that I've put out for HRM, and us to be more integrated over time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Danny.
Thank you, Councillor White.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Danny, for being here. This is great to put some color to our emails. I just wanted to hear a bit about how this all started. Like, it feels like an academic exercise. I see you're a charity and you've got government support. Like, how did this all start, and where do you want to go with Engage Nova Scotia?
It got started in 2012 with a group of Nova Scotians coming together, about 70 of us, from one end of the province to the other. At the time, nobody in the room was an elected official, and we said, we seem to be struggling to live up to our potential. And in order for us to do that as citizens, there's more that we can do to come together around ideas that aren't circulating in the public domain. So we focused at first on trust and engagement, hence our name. How do you bring people together in conversations about the lived experiences and the stories of how life is showing up for our citizens in a consistent way, particularly with municipalities. So we did a massive number of municipal trainings on public engagement and that sort of thing. But what we found was that encouraging municipalities and others to reach out to their citizens and have more forums and do their forums better wasn't sufficient. The gap in understanding really the story of people needed to be brought to light through a survey with an intention to reveal the results of the survey. So in some respects, we see the survey as the ultimate public engagement exercise, where we're not telling people what they need, we're asking them what they need. Mm-hmm. And they've given us trust to answer at this really appreciated level from 2019. And that's kind of where we're going as we move out. So here are the three things that we hope and promise over time. We think that we can help us understand our stories better, and we will equip regular citizens with our publicly available data, with government, with academia, with organizations, with the private sector, with information that, in a sense, doesn't just go under the couch, but behind the cushion and under the dust ball, to be able to really understand what's difficult for communities of people who are hardest to reach in our society. And we think over time we can also bring to light the questions that we're not getting to in the public domain because we're reacting about, whoa, we've got fiscal pressure, we've got a housing issue, public safety is the issue, and we keep playing whack-a-mole games on what should we do to react quickly and to satisfy the political pressure. What we want to do is actually invite all of us to imagine a stronger, healthier society. And that begins with us understanding issues like social connections, loneliness, mental health, confidence in institutions, and connection to the natural world, which show up in the literature as foundational to the very thing that you want a vision for. If you're talking about quality of life, it indeed includes affordability and housing and those pressing issues that are right in front of us. But the long game favors our ability to bring citizens together in more trusting fashions, including with municipalities, and to give more of our young people a pathway to the opportunity highway. We have families all over this province that don't have opportunity. And it's not because we don't have enough wealth in general to give them that opportunity. But we've got structural obstacles from allowing people all across the province from having the opportunities that we want them to have. And we're hoping that we can shine a light on those obstacles.
Fantastic. Thank you, Danny.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you. I think I'm not seeing any other questions, and I know all my questions were asked, so I'll thank you very much, and we'll see you tomorrow at budget. Thank you. Okay. So the next item on our agenda is public participation. And I understand, Elizabeth, we do not have any registered speakers. Is that correct? Okay, thank you very much. So there's no registered speakers for today. So I'll ask if there's anyone in the gallery who would like to speak. Is there anyone in the gallery who would like to speak? And then for the third and final time, is there anyone in the gallery that would like to speak? Okay, so we will move on to information items. And I'd like to invite Wendy Luther and Ian Monroe to come forward and make a presentation on People, Planet, Prosperity, Halifax's Inclusive Economic Strategy.
Madam Chair, and good morning. I do have for the clerk some documentation just to share. Some of you already have the snapshot of People, Planet, Prosperity. And now you'll have another copy. Well, good morning. I'm Wendy Luther with Halifax Partnership, Halifax's public-private economic development organization. Special shout out to our Halifax Partnership board members, Councillor Kathy Daigle-Gammon and Councillor Sean Cleary. I'm joined today by Ian Monroe, our chief economist. Thank you for this opportunity to provide an update on the progress against deliverables of People, Planet, Prosperity, Halifax's inclusive economic strategy for 2022 to 2027, with a focus on activities and outcomes from April 1st to October 31st, 2025. As you know, Halifax Partnership and HRM co-lead People, Planet, Prosperity, implementing the strategy in collaboration with public, private, post-secondary, and community partners. Halifax's inclusive economic strategy envisions a prosperous, growing Halifax that puts the well-being of people and planet first, with the goal of increasing the region's GDP to $34 billion and population to 650,000 by 2037. We also track shorter-term economic goals to 2027. The strategy is supported by 3 5-year strategic goals and 17 5-year objectives, which are supported by 60 actions in years 3 to 5. Of the 60 actions, 38 are led by HRM, 17 by Halifax Partnership, and 5 are co-led by both organizations. The report in your package highlights strategy implementation to October 31st, 2025. Today, Ian and I will provide an update on Halifax's economic performance and the partnership's work towards strategy goals. Progress updates on HRM actions are included in the report, and HRM staff can address any questions related to these actions. I'd like to acknowledge that in addition to HRM, Halifax Partnership is funded and supported by the Province of Nova Scotia, the Government of Canada, and 100 private sector and post-secondary investors. We couldn't do our work to strengthen Halifax's economy without this collaboration. And over to you, Ian.
Thank you, Wendy, and good morning, everyone. I'll quickly walk through progress towards the economic strategy goals and provide brief commentary on some other metrics. Let me first note today that I do not have an update on the strategy's well-being metric. However, the 2026 edition of the survey from which this metric is derived is now underway. We will have a data point next month. And just as a quick aside, this aligns very closely with the work Danny just described. And in our survey work, I literally have stolen some of his questions. I hope that's okay, but he's gone now. On to Halifax's population, which was just over 517,000 as of July 1st, 2025. Historical estimates of annual growth are in the medium shade of green on the left of this chart, and you can see how last year's figure of about 7,700 was down substantially from 2024's record-setting increase of over 20,000. In the middle are light green bars for this year and next that depict the growth just under 4,000 each year we would need to hit the economic strategy's target of 525,000 in 2027. As for the dark green bars to the right, if we assume that the 525,000 target is just reached next year, those bars show the annual growth required to hit the 2037 target of 650,000. And those figures are in the 11,000 to 14,000 range. Next, please. There's going to be a lot of charts here, just so you know. This chart depicts the components of population growth over the past decade, and I'll give you 3 quick observations. Halifax's growth has been driven largely by international migration. That's the 2 shades of green you see there. Last year, net natural population growth, that's births minus deaths, shown in blue. Net intra-provincial migration, that's movement between Halifax and places like Amherst and Bridgewater, so on, shown in orange. And net inter-provincial migration, that's movement between Halifax and the rest of Canada, shown in magenta, were all small, positive figures. The large dark green component is net immigration. The light green that turned into a negative figure last year is the net change in non-permanent residents. And this is where you see the impact of the reduction in the number of international students at our post-secondary institutions. Now, we desire population growth because it drives labor force growth and provides Halifax employers with the workers they need. The dark green bars here parallel the experience with population growth. After a record high in 2024, we have lower but still positive labor force growth last year. We'll need an uptick in the next 2 years, shown as the light green bars, to hit the economic strategy's 2027 labor force target of 310,000. Now let's look at GDP. And I'm going to begin with some good news. The economic strategy set a real GDP target of $26 billion by 2027. And I'm pleased to report that we crossed that threshold last year, well ahead of schedule. This chart shows in pink the robust estimated growth of our GDP in 2024. The blue bars from 2025 through 2030 are the forecasted values from the latest report issued by the Conference Board of Canada, who in January rebranded themselves as Signal 49 Research, just in case you see that name going forward. If we assume their forecast to be correct, the green bars from 2031 through 2037 are the values required to hit our 2037 target of $34 billion. Now, in a familiar economic metaphor, GDP is the size of the economic pie, and GDP per capita is the size of each person's slice of that pie. Now, looking out to 2030, annual GDP growth, shown in orange, consistently exceeds annual population growth, shown in blue. And the result is steady, albeit modest, growth in GDP per capita, as depicted by the green line. Now, you all know that affordability remains a major concern. This chart depicts the change in purchasing power for the average Halifax resident out to 2030. So annual growth in average income is shown in green, very strong in 2023 and 24, but more muted afterwards. The red bars show the inflation rate, somewhat elevated in 2023, but then drifting down to a more comfortable range. The residual of these two factors, shown in blue, is what we call the change in purchasing power. Essentially, how do earnings change relative to the cost of everything we buy with those earnings? After big jumps in 2023 and 2024, we moved from very slightly negative figures in 2025 and 2026 to very slightly positive figures from 2027 through 2030. And lastly, I'll take a look at real estate. The average selling price for a home in Halifax in 2025 was just north of $600,000. The blue lines here show how the annual increase in this average price has dropped down from the big spikes in the 2019 through 2022 period. Average apartment rents continue to climb in 2025, but the vacancy rate increased again to 2.7%, taking at least some pressure off the market. As a last bit of good news, I'll show you the run-up in housing construction in Halifax, and this can only help with affordability issues. To maintain this momentum, we'll need to do everything we can to ensure that regulatory issues, process roadblocks, and labor availability do not delay the conversion of these under construction units into completions. Thank you for your time. As always, please check out the Halifax Index, the Economic Dashboard, the Atlas, and other data products on our website if you're looking for facts and figures. And also, please stay abreast of our Productivity Puzzle initiative as we dive into many important policy questions, some of which are in your hands. Finally, I always enjoy the opportunity to speak and correspond with council members. When you have thoughts and questions on economic issues, please don't hesitate to get in touch if I can be of any assistance. Thank you. Back to Wendy.
Thank you so much, Ian. Halifax Partnership and HRM are working closely to address the challenges and opportunities of our growing city. Today, I'll focus on the partnership's implementation of the strategy across its three strategic goals, starting with promote and maximize inclusive, sustainable growth. As of October 31st, the partnership's Smart Business team supported the growth and success of 150 HRM businesses, including 49 rural-based businesses. Businesses like Atlantic Efficient Limited, developed by entrepreneur Al Stander. Al moved from South Africa to Halifax to launch Atlantic Efficient Limited, bringing an energy management technology already used widely in Europe and North America to businesses in Atlantic Canada. Despite strong market potential and clear sustainability benefits, Al faced financing barriers because the product is manufactured in the UK. Our rural smart business account executive provided Al with strategic guidance and connected him to financing opportunities. As a result, he secured funding and made his first sale soon after. Halifax remains a highly sought-after location for business, investment, and growth. Through a collaborative Team Nova Scotia approach, the team supported 3 companies in expanding their operations in HRM, resulting in over 200 expected jobs. One of those companies is DXC Technology, a leading Fortune 500 global technology service provider. DXC opened its new innovation center in Halifax in September, marking a major milestone in the company's Canadian growth strategy. The partnership is helping make DXC's expansion successful by connecting them into our business ecosystem and the right partners and resources to support their growth. To help businesses boost productivity and digital adoption, Halifax Partnership teamed up with Google Canada and Digital Nova Scotia to launch the Google Learning Program for businesses. We're offering 500 fully funded scholarships for Nova Scotia businesses to take the Google Prompting Essentials course. This self-paced course provides business leaders with practical skills to use AI to improve day-to-day productivity and fuel growth. One example is Fahad Al-Rahim, co-founder and CEO of local startup Hivo, an AI-powered workspace platform that helps remote workers and entrepreneurs book flexible, affordable workspace while helping businesses monetize underused space. Fahad has used the AI knowledge and skills gained through the Google Learning Program to develop Hivo's go-to-market strategy. While Eastern HRM currently captures only 2% of overall visitor traffic to HRM, the region holds significant potential for sustainable tourism development and economic growth. Halifax Partnership is leading a community-driven tourism initiative for Eastern HRM, funded by the province and supported by Discover Halifax, Tourism Nova Scotia, and CBDC Bluewater. The goals are to increase tourism readiness, support small businesses and economic growth, and position Eastern HRM as a tourism destination. The economic strategy aims to grow HRM's population to 525,000 and increase the labor force to 310,000 by 2027 by attracting workers to Halifax from across Canada and around the world, welcoming immigrants and connecting them to our workforce and community, removing systemic barriers to employment, and preparing businesses to meet future of work needs. Presented by RBC and supported by the province of Nova Scotia, our award-winning Connector program strengthens Halifax's workforce by connecting businesses with skilled talent while helping newcomers and young professionals grow their networks and build meaningful careers in our city. During the reporting period, the partnership welcomes 67 new connectors and 216 newcomer and young professional connectees to the Halifax Connector program, and 127 connectees secured career jobs in HRM. Each year, over 40% of connectees find meaningful employment in Halifax. One example is Anais Medina. When Anais moved from Chile to Halifax, she had engineering experience but no local network. Through the Connector program, she was matched with industry professionals and was hired as a civil engineering technician within months. That's the impact of helping skilled newcomers and young professionals build local networks and connect with career opportunities while helping Halifax employers access the talent they need to grow and succeed. Our labor market team enables employers to meet workforce needs by hiring international talent through the Atlantic Immigration Program, Nova Scotia Nominee Program, and Global Talent Stream. Novagevity is one of hundreds of employers the partnership has helped to address critical workforce gaps. They are a Halifax-based life science and medical nutrition company that launched Sperry, a company that makes plant-based meal replacements. When the company wanted to retain a high-performing international graduate, they faced an unfamiliar immigration process. Halifax Partnership provided hands-on support to navigate the Atlantic Immigration Program, guiding the company through designation and application requirements. With that expert help, Novagevity was able to retain talent they'd already invested in and avoid disruption and supporting their continued growth. HRM plays a key role in making Halifax a better place to live, work, play, and visit. These efforts reflect HRM's commitment to creating a city where quality of life and economic opportunity go hand in hand. Co-created in partnership with 22 senior business leaders and HRM's Environment and Climate Change team, the CEO Climate Action Charter supports Halifax's companies in demonstrating climate leadership within their organizations and our community. Halifax Partnership and HRM worked with the CEO Climate Action Charter signatories to develop a 3-year action plan for 2026 to 2029 aimed at advancing climate action within their organizations and throughout the Halifax business community. On October 30th, we hosted the inaugural CEO Climate Action Summit, a gathering of more than 70 CEOs and senior leaders who explored climate action as a strategic business imperative for long-term growth and competitiveness for both their organizations and the city. Thank you for this opportunity to provide an update on Halifax's economy and present highlights from Halifax Partnership's results and impact towards economic strategy goals. Ian and I look forward to answering your questions, and we hope that you'll join us at these upcoming events, including Halifax Partnership's 30th anniversary celebration on June 16th, 2026. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wendy and Ian. Just for the record, at some point during the live streaming of this, it was showing Green Network Plan update. It was always the People Partner Prosperity update. So just so anyone that's watching at home, if there was any confusion, I'd like to do that. And secondly, I'm going to cut short the process a little here. Typically, we'll ask for questions of clarity and then move to the motion. But what I'll do to accelerate the process, because we are running short of time, is I'll ask if a councillor would be prepared to put the motion on the floor. And Councillor Daigle-Gammon, you have your hand up. So please go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I'm pleased to put the motion on the floor that the Community Planning and Economic Development Standing Committee receive a presentation from the Halifax Partnership regarding People, Planet, Prosperity, Halifax's inclusive economic strategy, and forward the staff report dated February 12th, 2026, and the accompanying presentation from the Halifax Partnership to Halifax Regional Council for information.
Okay, moved by Councillor Daigle Gammon and seconded by Councillor Saint-Amand. Okay, so now we'll go ahead, Councillor Daigle Gammon.
Thank you. I can be quick. Thank you very much for the presentation. I actually really like the charts. I know that they're hard sometimes, but it's really interesting. And, you know, I kind of wish that there was more councillors that were able to be here today for the presentation. We've been reading a lot of stuff through budget and everything, but, you know, when you look at this report and you think about the 60 actions that are here and the progress that is being made by the Halifax Partnership, it is an impressive piece of work. And it is such extreme value for the investment that HRM makes. This really is our economic arm, so and our marketing arm. So it's something that we should be always very appreciative of the work. So thank you. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Mancini.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wendy and Ian, thanks very much. I've got lots of questions, so where do I start? You mentioned, Wendy, in your presentation, Halifax is a sought-off location. Why? Why we continue to be a sought-out? What is it that is attracting businesses to come here?
Thank you, through the chair, to Councillor Mancini. So our core value proposition, starting with talent, still rings through. You know, it's the incredible strength of our post-secondary institutions and the workforce that continues to build and grow. It's very interesting, as we're now at 517,000 people. That has also kind of tipped us over to get on the radar of site selectors around the world. So we're playing in a new league now. So we were always interesting, but largely because of our talent, somewhat because of our cost. Now talent remains strong. We're not seen as a low-cost jurisdiction anymore, but it still means that we can attract and retain some of the most sophisticated global businesses, which has been accelerated through recent investments in defense spending. So just today, the federal government has announced the DIS, the Defense Industrial Strategy. I think Halifax is poised to benefit from that strategy, focusing on spending more Canadian dollars on Canadian industries. Mm-hmm. And of course, with our largest Canadian Navy right here in Halifax, we are the most strategic location for those investments. We're also working with our provincial partners on the Defense Security Resiliency Bank opportunity. If that were to come to Halifax, that's 4,000 jobs. We're incredibly proud of the work of NATO Diana and the cohorts that they're producing to be able to manufacture and create innovations right here in Halifax and sell those around the world. So, you know, the success is building on the success, but it's really based in talent and location. And the environment that we've created. So with such an increasingly volatile world and economy, businesses are looking for predictable and stable communities, governments, and economies. And we have that to offer here in Halifax.
Building on that, thank you, Wendy. You know, you talked about the talent. It's something I know that's dear to your heart and mine also, the international students. And that's changed, right? The province is held that back. We see the impact that's had on universities. You know, I look at the international students, how they've helped us from a business perspective, but it wasn't that long ago, I'd walk down Spring Garden Road, everybody looked like me. And now the diversity that we have in our communities, big part of that is our international students staying. Can you talk about, are you having conversations with the province? Is that a year-to-year decision the province is doing at holding back that number of international students? Is that changing?
Thank you, Councillor. So immigration policy at that level, of course, lands firstly with the federal government. Last Monday, I presented to the House of Commons Standing Committee on Immigration and made that case of the importance of regional differences in national policy making. And I shared the story that has already come up here today around, starting with the Ivany report. After decades of stagnation or decline, we rallied together as a community to acknowledge that we need to grow or perish as we face this demographic cliff. We've been incredibly successful through those collaborative efforts. So I look forward to sharing my comments with you that I shared with the House Committee. And I hope that they got that message that Halifax is different than the GTA, is different than Vancouver Lower Mainland. We have different needs, and we still have businesses looking for workers more right now than we have workers looking for work.
Yeah, thank you for that. I would like you to share. I'm just running out of time here, Wendy. So my next question, and then I'll have to come back, obviously. What are the industries that you're working with now? You alluded to some of them in your presentation, but when you're out there selling and marketing Halifax, what are some of the industries you're now talking to? Types of industries. I don't mean specifically the names, the companies, but the types of industries. You alluded to, the focus on Canadian industries, but what are those industries?
Thank you, Council. I've already mentioned defense and leaning into our defense opportunities, including submarine in-service support here in Halifax, and the incredible ecosystem that will be needed to stand up that project. We're continuing to focus on and lean into our commitment to climate advantage that is listed as a strategic advantage for Halifax in People, Planet, Prosperity in attracting clean tech and green focused companies. Really important to point on this one that with the changing sentiment in the U.S. administration, offshore wind projects canceled mid-flight, that capital is looking for new places to invest. And we here in Halifax, and in partnership with the provincial government, big projects like Wind West are massive generational opportunities for our city and our province in a kind of global environment where we've just become that much more competitive because of the change in policy going south of the border. We continue to focus on biotech companies, ICT with a focus on artificial intelligence. Those would be top of the list.
Thank you very much. I'll come back. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Cuddle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And sorry I missed the bulk of your presentation in person. I did have it on a screen next to the other meeting I was chairing with the Atlantic Caucus for FCM. And there was some synergy happening there at one point as we were talking with the other Atlantic provinces about economic prosperity and what we need to do as a region. And the discussion was, kind of looking at jurisdictional needs, like what we can do as municipalities, what we need to work with the province, and where we need to work with the federal government and helping support our regional economic growth. And it was kind of interesting. Immigration was talked about. It's not just here that we kind of feel that it's not a one-size-fits-all solution, that this is something that the other Atlantic provinces are feeling as well. The other one was about our productivity, and I know you've been doing a lot of work on the productivity puzzle. That's not just about talent, it's how we actually engage and unpack that talent, that in some ways our talent isn't being used to its fullest capacity. And so I'm just wondering, just coming off of that conversation, where you think we need to be engaging with the provincial and federal governments around creating a more fertile ground here for economic development.
Sure. Red is what I want? Yes, there we go. Good. Thank you. Thank you for that. I guess the point I'll make as sort of a summary of what we've been hearing through this productivity puzzle series we've been running now since last April and continuing again with another session on March 30th. There are lots of individual opportunities that we're all hearing about and thinking about, defense and wind and so on, and there may be lots of things that we can latch onto. I think one of the things we need to be cognizant of coming out of these discussions we've been having is we also cannot lose sight of the fundamentals, basic things like regulatory structures, how well educated our kids in our workforce are, taxation issues. And a further point is that many of these things we don't need to look for new solutions. In many of the talks I've given and the papers I've done and the discussions we had at these meetings, I can cite reports and blue ribbon panels and testimonies going back 10 or 20, 30 years that have been compiled by experts in the field, economists, academics, civil servants, politicians who study these things, and they come up with the same recommendations over and over again, year after year. So I think one of the more important questions is when we can see what needs to be done and the clear advice is out there, why is it not occurring? And it's because a lot of them, they are politically difficult, politically challenging. So I think there's a real need for communication efforts to better make these cases to people about why changes to the taxation structure can benefit us all, how we've seen some real progress, for example, on interprovincial trade barriers, right? That's been talked about for decades. Finally, in this past year, we've seen some real movement, part of it because we had essentially a metaphorical gun pointed at our head. It kind of sharpens the focus at that point. But we've shown we can make some moves on that. I mean, politically difficult, tricky. So I hope that the jurisdictions together can come to recognize some of these fundamental issues, how they cross borders, if it's taxation or regulation, and work together. And with the assistance, I hope, of groups like ours in trying to build public opinion along and understanding, to take these difficult and courageous steps to move the ball down the field. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, it might be useful at some point to have a conversation about what those fundamentals are so that, through our various channels, we can all be pushing in the same direction for the right kind of change. I mean, I know we're one of the highest, we have one of the highest income taxes in the country. And that, that's a kind of a significant issue for a number of people in thinking about locating here. So thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor White.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ian, Wendy, for being here. I'm just wondering, as it's budget time, just if you could make it very clear for us how the work that you do in economic development, both indirectly and directly, brings in money and grows our community.
Through the chair to Councillor White, thank you for the question. So we're a revenue generating entity funded by all three orders of government and the private sector and post-secondaries. But first and foremost, our closest partner and foundational funder is HRM. So in all of the work that we do, we're focused on growing our economy for the sake of, well, building social cohesion, doing well by our residents, doing well by our planet, but also by generating revenue streams for primarily HRM and also the province. So what that looks like from an HRM's viewpoint, from the majority of 80% plus of your revenues coming from property taxes, commercial and residential property taxes. So we contribute to that by helping attract businesses here. Since 2019, we've helped bring or materially expand over 80 companies here in HRM who are in some cases buying land from HRM. So there's a revenue stream there. Of course, they're paying commercial property taxes. So there's a revenue stream there. And for those businesses and the hundreds and hundreds more that we support in some of the stories that I shared today, to make sure that you have reliable, sustainable taxpayers because their businesses are doing well. They are supporting HRM through their commercial property taxes because their businesses are thriving and growing. For what we do on the kind of provincial tax streams, as one example, Connector alone in 1 year generated almost $5 million in income tax and sales, and the provincial portion of sales tax, that was based on a $450,000 investment. So over a 10x contribution just from 1 year of Connector program alone. And that's not the broad economic benefit, that's just the direct tax impact. Now, yes, those are provincial taxes and the province funds that program along with RBC, but HRM makes the base contribution to Halifax Partnership to make us running those programs possible. And of course, those individuals doing well, being gainfully employed, now they're able to have shelter, rent, or own homes, to be able to contribute to the social cohesion of our communities. And that in turn has both revenue generating and cost savings benefits to HRM.
Fantastic. Where were the 80 companies since when was that?
2019.
Since 2019.
Yeah, over
Okay.
80 since 2019.
Okay, thank you for pulling that together. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor White. Councillor Hinch.
Thank you, Ian and Wendy, for the presentation. So I'm going to be on the opposite side of things. What's not going well? What's not working well? Especially when it comes to small businesses. I mean, we see them closing. I see a lot of small businesses closing. How do we, try to not so much support, but try to figure out why they closed, what they needed, and things of that nature? Is that something that it's possible for you guys to work with small businesses?
Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Hinch. So one brief reflection to start. When we stood up People Planet Prosperity and working with our partners at HRM, we spoke with or connected with over 2,500 business leaders, community leaders, government leaders to provide input into this process. And one thing that was particularly remarkable to me was when we were working in urban Halifax, businesses, when they would talk about kind of barriers to success, top three were talent. I need to find more workers, and I need affordable or attainable places for them to live. And, they have a challenge getting around, like we need to improve our transit connectivity. When we talked to business owners in rural HRM, they said, we are not like urban Halifax. So firstly, we need attraction, we need talent, we need places for them to live, and we need ways for them to get around. So the identified barriers were the same. What we hear from our colleagues on the Smart Business team that are working with hundreds of smaller businesses, talent is still number one, and being able, the changing immigration focus has created increased complexity, especially here in HRM for companies that were not in skilled trades, construction companies, or healthcare. So Councillor Mancini asked a question earlier on around immigration and the province's role. I believe that the province has now, kind of opened their mind in this year to being a bit more broad in terms of their definition of the industries that they're looking to support. But that type of slowing down in programs like the Atlantic Immigration Program was really challenging on IT companies, et cetera, that were not falling into one of those two areas of priorities for the province. The other is around general red tape reduction, really reducing barriers that just plain don't make sense. I mean, and this is where HRM has such an important piece to play. We hear from companies who are everything from they've come here, they're so excited to launch, but they can't get approval for their sign. And this is what's keeping them up at night because they can't, they've got all their investors here and they can't cut the ribbon without this one approval, or they need an occupancy permit and that it just doesn't make sense to them, or say something has changed in the policy or bylaw environment and they don't really understand the change and now it impacts them negatively, and they just don't have the kind of staff or cycles to be able to navigate these challenges. These are very small companies where the owner is also doing the deliveries or mopping the floor, and they need things to be stable, predictable, and simple. And so HRM has such a clear voice in that, and it is heartbreaking when you see businesses that, because they got tied up in regulatory and not even not being offside with regulation, but something has changed in the environment that they just cannot weather through that storm and come out the other side. So that is a real risk. And that type of red tape reduction, clarity of regulation that makes sense is something that HRM can play a huge role in.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hinch. Councillor Mancini.
I know we're short on time, Madam Chair. I'll be really quick. I've got a whole bunch of questions that I'm only going to ask two. One, is I was going to close on, but the motion is to have this as an information report go to regional council. I look at the person, Councillor David Gammon, that put this on the floor. This needs to be a presentation at regional council. This is too important. We need to have this conversation with all 17 of us in the room, and particularly with the mayor in the room. So if it doesn't, that doesn't change, when it comes to regional council, I'll be asking for a presentation for sure. My final question here today, we talked about budget. We are in a situation where just recently last week there was a recommendation that we cut 10% budget cut across all business units. When I asked you the question, Halifax is sought after location, why? You gave me a list, talent, and so on. But you also mentioned because we have an environment that's predictable and a stable community. So what does that message say to the businesses that are looking to come to Halifax if they're saying, wait a minute, this place we're considering moving, they're doing what? They're doing a 10% cut across all business units? What is that message? And what is the concern of that message states?
Thank you through the chair to Councillor Mancini. So I watched the budget proceedings from Friday and appreciate that this council has some difficult decisions to make. And I appreciate in watching the deliberation and the motion that was put forth by Councillor Cleary that staff has gone away to come up with the I think the chef's menu on staff's recommendations for finding $40+ million. As my answer back, Councillor, is the impact on business is it depends what is on the table. So as I just mentioned, barriers to business success around lengthy delays on approvals, companies not understanding the process. I appreciate we have some colleagues here from Parks and Rec. I know our partners at Discover Halifax with tourism have given me recently 3 examples of tourism-related businesses that can't get an answer on a building or growing an operation, just it's gone in a black box. And so, if cuts will slow down approvals, clear process, building approvals, services that businesses rely on, and that continuous quest for efficiencies, then that could be seen as problematic. I appreciate that HRM is really leaning into value for money. And as you know, Councillor, as being a past business owner, businesses appreciate value for money, and I'll be watching the budget process keenly to see how is this also an opportunity for streamlining processes, for reducing red tape and regulation where it doesn't make sense. And that also saves time, and time is money. So the actual impact will depend on what choices are made around this chambers.
Thank you very much for that, Ian and Wendy. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor Cuttle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is disappointing that there aren't more councillors here around the table to hear this presentation. But I also just want to note efficiency of how we work at council. Bringing this forward to regional council means, again, many of us hearing the same presentation and having the same dialogue. It means a duplication of our staffing resources coming and presenting a presentation they've already made. And it creates scheduling challenges. I think it's incumbent upon councillors who have an interest in this, either to make an effort to be here today to hear the presentation and ask the questions, or B, they have the opportunity to go onto YouTube and watch the presentation and get the information. I don't think bringing every information item from a standing committee, bringing forward it, as an information item to regional council is the best use of our time, or the time of our presenters, who also have very busy jobs doing things. So this isn't saying what's being presented is not important. It's very important. I just think that as a council and as standing committees, we need to start to function differently. The purpose of our standing committees is to receive presentations like this and to have a robust discussion. Adding things onto our regional council agendas is also not productive, especially when you have 10, 12-hour council meetings. So I won't support any motion to bring this forward to RC, but that's not a reflection of the importance of the presentation and information that was given to us today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Seeing no further people buzzing in, I'll ask for the question. Someone to call for the question. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Contrary minded, nay. The motion has passed. Thank you very much, Wendy and Ian. Appreciate you coming in and your willingness to always answer all of our questions. Thank you. Okay, and thank you, Councillor Mancini. So what I need to do now is ask for a motion to both change the order of the agenda items and also to prolong the meeting by about 15 minutes. There is a time-sensitive item, 13.1.3. What I'd like to do is postpone 13.1.2 until the end, after the in-camera item, and move that to the last part of the agenda, and also to prolong the meeting for 15 minutes. Should councillors, okay, thank you, Councillor Daigle-Gammon, and seconded by Deputy Mayor. Thank you. So we will now move then to the Centre for Art Tapes funding request, and I'll ask Kelly McIver and Lindsay Corey to come forward. So I see on the agenda that you're available to make a presentation if requested. In the interest of time, are you planning to just speak to it, or you have a presentation you're going to provide?
Through you, Chair, to the councillor, in the interest of time, we're prepared to speak to that unless the committee would like the presentation.
What is the will of the table? Councillor Daigle-Gammon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If the presentation is fairly short and succinct, maybe it would be good to set the stage with it.
Perfect. Thank you. Vice Chair Saint-Amand, you're in that.
Yeah, I'm fine receiving a presentation. I was prepared to ask a couple of questions, but I can wait until after a short presentation.
Okay, perfect. Great. Thank you.
Okay, so through you, Chair, to the committee, I'm Lindsay Corey. I'm a community developer of public art, and I'm joined with Kelly McIver, the Manager of Culture and Community. We're happy to present the staff report and the presentation for the request for funding from the Centre for Art Tapes. So CFAT, or Centre for Art Tapes, has requested a one-time contribution of $300,000 towards the purchase of 2199 Gottingen Street. The purchase and closing costs are $900,000, and the request represents approximately 30% of the total project costs. The property sits adjacent to key arts organizations, strengthening the existing arts cluster on Gottingen Street, so Bus Stop Theatre, Radstorm, Wonderneath, Eye Level Art Gallery, and the Blue Building. We've been in contact, staff have been in contact with CFAT for a few years regarding the possibility of purchasing a permanent venue, and this request came from the October 16th CPED motion, which directed staff to assess CFAT's proposal and report back. In the interest of time, CFAT shared a lot of their own history, and we have some here too. Basically, they were formed in 1979 in a real boom of artist-run culture in the city. And they are the only dedicated media arts production center in Atlantic Canada. They have challenges with rental costs, as most do, and the stability of their operations into the future. And they have an active membership as well. So their request for funding falls outside of an HRM funding program. The current process is for organizations to come to CPED and make ad hoc funding requests. Council has approved comparable one-time contributions in recent years to secure cultural venues like the Radstorm Community Arts Space and Bus Stop Theatre Cooperative. CFAT has secured a below-market purchase opportunity, and to date, they have made headway towards their fundraising goals and are committed to raising additional funds throughout the renovation process. Parks and Recreation included a $595,000 service enhancement in the approved 25-26 budget to consider and potentially accommodate funding requests that were anticipated. An estimated $200,000 was included to consider this request. And the full request of $300,000 includes $225,000 towards the down payment and $75,000 towards the first phase of renovations. And staff have prioritized the down payment in their recommendation. So with requests like this, we conduct an internal review with staff from culture and community partnerships, finance, legal services, and we evaluate the request using consistent criteria applied to a request like this, looking at CFAT's business plan, their feasibility study, their financial performance, as well as tested against HRM priorities, plans, and we make an assessment from on that, and also funding from other orders of government, progress towards fundraising goals. So in looking at all of those pieces, staff concluded that the plan is feasible and demonstrates a sustainable path for operations and building maintenance. CFAT's financial model includes a 10 to 15% contingency and commitment to establishing a building reserve fund through their modest annual surplus. The new revenue from residential units that they would have in this building supports long-term stability. And similar to other recent requests like Radstorm and Bus Stop Theatre, there's no other government funding for building acquisitions like this. Through federal and provincial partners have indicated that there's potential support for renovations or specialized equipment purchases, accessibility upgrades. So overall, the risks to HRM are low and they're manageable through a standard contribution agreement, which we can speak about as well. This slide points towards their progress, towards their overall financial model. They have secured preliminary mortgage approval and are progressing on donations and sponsorships. Municipal support to acquire the building is critical as it closes the purchase gap for them and positions CFAT to focus on subsequent renovation phases with other funders. As such, this is a balanced approach, a reasonable mortgage, demonstrated community support, and targeted public investment. I wanted to take a minute to speak about HRM's venues study. That's one of the plans that we test requests like this against. The request aligns with many of your own priorities, of council's priorities. And there is it also aligns within the venue study. This study was launched in 2023, and the municipality launched a 2-part project that explores how HRM can better support professional art venues. Part 1, the study, was completed in 2024, and Part 2 of the project, which is the venues plan, will explore permanent venues, among other things. This work is starting in 26-27. The venue study identified a decline in professional art spaces with rising market pressures. It explicitly recommends municipal support for nonprofits to create, acquire, and renovate venues, particularly for the creation and production spaces, which this study flagged as quite urgent needs. CFAT's request aligns squarely with those recommendations. It serves a core arts cluster, is heavily used, is well located near complementary venues and transit, and provides specialized equipment and production capacity that would otherwise be scarce within the city. And yeah, finally, staff recommend the one-time contribution, which you can see in the report. We're recommending $225,000, which again prioritizes the down payment and not the renovation phase. We're happy to speak to any questions.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Lindsay. I see Deputy Mayor Cuddle has buzzed in. So if you could put the motion on the floor just to accelerate our process a bit today, that'd be appreciated.
Gladly, Madam Chair. I move that Community Planning and Economic Development Standing Committee recommend that Regional Council 1 approve the provision of a one-time contribution totaling $225,000 to the Centre for Art Tapes to be allocated toward the purchase of the property at 2199 Gottingen Street, Halifax, accommodated in Parks and Recreation's 25-26 operating budget. And 2, authorize the Chief Administrative Officer or their delegate to negotiate and execute the municipality's standard contribution agreement with Centre for Art Tapes with terms and conditions acceptable to the Chief Administrative Officer.
Thank you. Looking for a seconder? Thank you, Vice Chair Saint-Amand. Councillor Cuddle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so we all know right now that we are in pretty tough budget times. That's just a fact. Why I am going to support this is because of a really critical point you raised in the report, which is the decline in art space that we're experiencing in the city. One of the things when people, talk about what they love most about Halifax, our vibrant arts community is one of those things that I feel is very cherished and lends to our unique identity. As well, when you look at an organization like Centre for Art Tapes, it's also about economic development. The film industry here is a really key economic industry that we've become well known for, and we've built a lot of talent around, and programs like CFAT help feed that pipeline to keep that industry growing and strong. The other piece I want to talk about is, what this means to Gottingen Street and the North End in particular. That for a long time was a bit of an artistic hub in the city, predominantly because of the low-cost spaces that existed in that part of the city and the collection of groups that operated from there. When you look at the North End now, you see so much redevelopment, also known as gentrification is what a lot of people would call that, where the tenants and the organizations that used to be able to afford to operate there no longer can. As we see the redevelopment of that area. So when there's an opportunity to seize on a purchase of a property at below market value to keep some of these long time operating organizations going, I think it is important to do so. I appreciate staff that have taken the request, focused on the purchase of the property, the down payment aspect of it, as kind of the main, reason for the funding. And, and it's not, in the broader ask of things, we get many asks here in council chambers, and this is a rather modest one in comparison to many, and the fact that they have a sustainable financial model moving forward is an important consideration as well. I mean, they have been around for a long time. They've always proven to be a well-operated, well-organized, well-managed not-for-profit. So for all of those reasons, I'm going to support this motion and that it get brought forward to Regional Council for further discussion. So thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Vice Chair St. Amand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm very much like-minded with our Deputy Mayor. There's only so many opportunities that arts organizations have to plant their flag and in particular be able to expand in the process. I have a couple of questions, but I'm sure they'll wind up being addressed in due course. But the ones that immediately come to mind, while it's noted in the staff report that the conveyance of the property is likely to trigger a reassessment of the property and therefore the tax liability may wind up changing, do we have a sense of what that tax liability might be? I mean, are there comparables that we've looked at to know whether or not the assessment is going to change dramatically or just by a small percentage in anticipation of application for tax relief that will now be available to the Center for Art Tapes by owning their building. And so we wind up municipally having that extra cost that we'll wind up absorbing by providing that measure of tax relief. Do we know what that might look like?
Through you, Chair, to the councillor. No, we don't have that information. It could be an incremental increase in that assessment. It's also as part of their business model, there's residential apartments that they intend to keep. And so that also, that formula of the tax relief, the portion is not for that residential. So I am certainly not the tax person to answer those questions. So this one is a little more complicated, but certainly in their proposal and in their business case and plan, they have looked at those. They have looked at those different scenarios. So they've been pretty careful, and they've done a comparison of what mortgage versus the rental is. So we took a careful look at that and dug into those performance too.
Just knowing that the likelihood is that they'll build in their municipal tax bill in their mortgage, it would just be an important piece of the pie to make sure that that has been fully accounted for in how they're projecting their operations going forward. And the other piece of it that I would hope that the organization would be able to respond to would be any opportunity that there may be for the expansion of their of income opportunities for themselves. I mean, yes, they've got the rental units, but they're also achieving an increase in the amount of space that they have available. So my hope is that they'll be able to use that as a critical opportunity to expand their services. What little revenue that they wind up bringing in for the services that they offer should give them an opportunity to increase that alongside the opportunities that they have already. So I'll happily support this. I think it's one of the things. It's a relatively low-hanging fruit, and I think it's giving them an opportunity to ensure that they have a very productive space going forward. And provides them with a degree of stability that the current rental market that they're in right now just doesn't afford them, and that then translates into stability for the broader arts community that they serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I do have a couple of questions. In general, I always support anything related to arts. It's an important piece of my life, and it's an important piece of so many Haligonians and Nova Scotians. The challenge we have in budget is huge, absolutely huge. And there has been waffling of cutting service groups and not supporting, and then there's cutting of services, vital services. So it's been a moving target like the ocean. It's like you can't quite catch the wave that you're looking for. So these are always tough. I'm prepared to support it, to get it to council, as others have said. I'm not sure where I'll land at the end of the day in amongst all the big picture, but I just need clarification. This approved budget through the 25-26, does just to be very clear, that means the money has been set aside for this specifically. It's not new. It's not specifically. It's still at risk, I guess, with the budget debate, but it's not new money. Can we clarify that for me?
Through the chair to the councillor, that's correct. It's within this budget year, so the 25-26 budget
Right.
year that we're talking about, as opposed to being
Which has been
associated
approved. That
to,
budget's been
and that
approved.
budget has been approved, and there was a specific allocation because staff knew this request was coming as a potential recommendation, and so this allowed staff to do the analysis, and if there was a positive recommendation to bring that forward.
And this organization, I'm not familiar with it, but is this organization well established, been around a long time to be able to support this kind of stewardship over the kind of funding that will come from probably many levels of government? I'm seeing nods, yes, so that's good enough for me. And the other piece is, are they giving up space in order to take the new space? Or I'm not sure what they have under their umbrella right now as far as art space. I just need to know, is this an addition to the art space, or are we just replacing one?
Through you, Chair, to the councillor, it's a new space. So they currently rent a space on the same block. It's they almost abut each other. And they would be moving to a permanent location where they would purchase the building. It would also increase their capacity as they'd be adding a new media art gallery there, which doesn't exist anywhere else in the city, which also would support other arts organizations, the entire ecosystem of artists in the city. So it increases what they currently do by quite a bit, but they does that answer your question?
I think so. What I'm hearing is it's not a net new space. Like, it's not adding on to a space that's there, keep that space, and then we have another one and we have a larger capacity. That other one is going to be gone. This one will be new, but the expansion is contributing to the net amount that we have. Okay. All right. That's good enough for me for now. I don't know if I'll have more questions later or not in council, but we'll see. Thank you.
Okay. Are we ready to call for the question? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Contrary minded, nay. The motion has passed. Okay. So now we're at the in-camera portion of the meeting, but I will ask councillors if anyone would like to move the in-camera item while in public. Okay, thank you, Councillor Saint-Amand. We will put the motion on the floor.
There we go. I will move that the Community Planning and Economic Development Standing Committee, 1, adopt the recommendations as outlined in the private and confidential report dated February 11th, 2026, and 2, direct that the private and confidential report dated February 11th, 2026 be maintained private and confidential.
Are we ready for the question? Okay, the question has been called for. All those in favor, raise your hand or signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, nay. The motion has passed. So, councillors, we are now at 12:16. We have a choice to make. We defer the Park Advisory Committee, the terms of reference for the new Park Advisory Committee until a future meeting, or would you prefer to tack, and my apologies, 15 minutes onto this meeting to permit us to have this discussion. Okay. Yes, I know. That's what I'm thinking as well. Okay. So we will move now, as predicted. We will move to the terms of reference for the new Park Advisory Committee, and we'll ask Richard Harvey to come forward.
Do you need a motion to extend?
Oh, yes. Could I have Councillor Purdy, seconded by Councillor Deputy Mayor Cuddle, the motion to extend until such time as we finish the Park Advisory Committee motion. Thank you. Oh, we have to vote on that. All those in favor signify by saying aye, raising your hand. Contrary minded, nay. We have extended. Thank you. Mr. Harvey, please proceed.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, committee members. My name is Richard Harvey. I'm the Manager of Policy and Planning with Parks and Recreation. I'll be providing an overview of the terms of reference for a Park Advisory Committee staff report that is part of today's committee's agenda package. So the origin of this matter is from a deliberation of this committee and Regional Council in 2021. At that time, there was a stated desire by the CPAD Committee and Regional Council to establish a Parks Advisory Committee with a real sort of genesis of it to enhance public engagement on matters related to parks and outdoor recreation. It was stated that while consultation occurs through initiatives such as the development of park plans, there were fewer opportunities for community input on parks-related matters, and that was really the reason by which the committee and then Regional Council passed this motion in 2021. Now, the original motion from 2021 was addressed in a staff report in 2024 that considered the prospect of a Parks Advisory Committee in a larger context, that being a review of other agencies, boards, and committees. At that time, Regional Council supported a direction to substantially reduce the number of agencies, boards, and committees, but took a direction that a staff report continue to be prepared on a potential Parks Advisory Committee. So the overall direction was to reduce the number of committees, but there was a thought and a direction to look at a Parks Advisory Committee. And that's really, reporting on that is the staff report that you have before you at this time. So within the staff report, the advice that you have before you does not recommend the establishment of a Parks Advisory Committee for a variety of reasons that are identified within that staff report. One of the primary reasons for this continues to be within the context that the municipality and Regional Council is directing the role of agencies, boards, and committees. And that's an active program. So really the direction that Regional Council has taken is to reduce the number of agencies, boards, and committees. And with that context, there's been a recognition of a need that committees have an ability, or there's less of a need for committees. There's an ability to consult with the public through surveys and direct engagement, and there's less of a reliance on a committee of experts. There's also highlighted within the staff report that numerous committees often require considerable administrative support. Another reason identified within the staff report is that this committee, the CPAD committee, already has and takes on many of the roles of the intended Parks Advisory Committee. This committee regularly meets and receives presentations from organizations and individuals on parks and recreation matters. So within the staff report, and there's also within the staff report an attachment that provides examples of the numerous presentations from organizations that have been before the committee. Finally, within the staff report, there is an identification that there is already quite a significant amount of other public engagement that happens. Formally, this occurs through Parks Advisory, through the development of park plans. And there's also more informal engagement that occurs for changes within parks that occurs through regular discussions with councillors, websites and signage for capital projects. There's a variety of meetings that occur with individuals and organizations, and there are increasingly other opportunities for public involvement within parks. Now, while a Parks Advisory Committee is not recommended within the staff report, in keeping with Council's direction, there has been a full terms of reference that has been prepared should CPED and Regional Council direct the establishment of a Parks Advisory Committee. And again, that's contained within an attachment of your staff report. But the staff advice to you and through the Regional Council is that a Parks Advisory Committee is not recommended on the basis that this committee already serves that role. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Thanks, Richard. And I see Deputy Mayor Cuddle is on the board. I'll ask you to put the motion on the floor, please.
Sure, I can do that. Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the Community Planning and Economic Development Standing Committee recommend to Halifax Regional Council that the Community Planning and Economic Development Standing Committee continue to serve as the municipality's advisory body on parks and recreation matters.
Thank you, and seconded by Councillor Purdy. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for this report. I think you kind of call out some of the challenges that we have had with advisory committees in the past. In my experience, it's particularly around finding a meaningful role where they seem to be very limited in their ability to make decisions. As well, you know, I think when we have advisory committees that are pan HRM, when you look at parks, there's not a really in-depth knowledge of regional or district-based parks when it comes to kind of addressing local needs or issues. I think, you know, in my experience, when there's a local park that there's an issue with, the councillor is often the first point of contact, and then it's with Parks and Rec to try to resolve the issue or improve the situation. You know, I also see this layered with many other things, such as the park strategy. We also now have a public engagement framework. I see the public engagement, and this would be a question, I mean, the public engagement framework that we have, I see it used mostly in planning and development and engaging citizens. And so moving forward, if we don't have a Parks Advisory Committee, what are the opportunities that are built into our current parks framework to engage local communities in questions that are related to local park assets? I just haven't experienced that a lot. I mean, I've seen it when it comes to facilities. I see it when it comes to, like I said, planning and development, but I haven't seen it related particularly to parks. And I know that there's a couple of park master plans that are currently happening or being planned to happen in the near future. And, you know, that's where I see the most need for having that public engagement happen. So, like, what guarantee is there that there will be, you know, an advisory role for the community in things that are related to parks in their neighborhoods?
So, Madam Chair, whenever we're preparing a park plan, we would follow that engagement strategy, and we have formalized engagement through that. Outside of that, as you've alluded to, there's very good engagement that happens by way of any of our capital projects or just working directly with councillors in terms of engaging with community. What the staff report illuminates is that outside of those particular matters, if there's ever an organization that wishes to make a presentation, that can happen through this committee. And of course, councillors have the ability to bring any matter of concern through regional council to ask for a staff report. So that's how it sort of in a short time kind of cover that sort of sweep of how we use the community engagement strategy and also engage with the community.
Right. So on that note, I do feel inclined to support this motion and not kind of create other levels of bureaucracy, even though I'm a huge proponent for community engagement. I know it's critically important. As long as we have other mechanisms and we're not creating an illusion of public engagement where there's really no power in that committee, I don't think that that's a good use of staff time or it's a good use of our residents' time. I prefer a more direct and focused approach. And so we'll be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Seeing no other, it's been called for. The question has been called for. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Contrary minded, nay. The motion has passed. Okay. So we don't have any added items. Thank you, Richard. We don't have any added items at this time. Do we have any notices of motion from councillors? Okay, not seeing any. The date of the next meeting is March 12, 2026. And could I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Councillor Daigle-Gammon. And the time we adjourned is 12:28. Thank you all for your patience.